So today's panel is Urbanism and Architecture. My name is Amanda Gutierrez. I am one of the chairs of the Midwest Society of Acoustic Ecology, and I'm very, very glad to be in this panel. Today we have the first one from the Rio del Mar, and it's called Loud Notes, Soundscapes of the Barrio Latino.
Well, I'm going to present you the collaboration project that I have been done with Francesca Marilumena, and it is called The Loud Notes Still Remaining as Voices in the Soundscapes of the Barrio Gótico of Barcelona, in the Technical School of Architecture of Barcelona. The objectives of this project are to proportionate the first scientific tool about the door knockers of the Barrio Gótico, which is a cultural loud patrimony of Barcelona. It is the first story that we do about these elements. To catalog the existing and missing elements of the pre-existing housing, and to include sonometric measurements, recordings with WAV quality, photographs, video, physical measurements, drawing plans and sketches, to study the root in the air and in the solid way, in the interior of the buildings, to describe the materials and constructive systems, and to make interviews and surveys, among others. The territorial area of this study is the Barrio Gótico, that belongs to the District 1 of the Ciutat Vella. The District 1 is where you can see in the first picture. And the Barrio Gótico is delimited by Plaza de Cataluña, Las Ramblas, Vía Layetana, and Paseo de Colón. This barrio is characterized for being the oldest urban manifestation of the city, where one can find the own unmistakable styles of the primitive Carthagino-Roman, the medieval city, and the Gothic period. According to the town hall, the delimitation is what I said. First of all, we started to look up the words in the dictionary that are referred to these elements. We found all of these terms in Spanish, Catalan, and English. Aldaba is in Castellano. For example, the same word in Catalan is picaporto, or, well, one of these. Okay. The door knockers have been very important in the literature because writers like Cervantes, that is Spanish, or Salvador Espriu, that is Catalan, have mentioned it in their literary work. In some of these books you can find these terms, but also in the popular culture, because some proverbs include these terms. For example, atal casa tal aldaba, the first one, means that as much big was the door knocker, much rich was the person who lives there. As a curiosity, the Catalan TV emitted a program which the title was Three Pigs and One Tropico. These are terms of the same elements. Secondly, to start with the cataloging, we should know the main characteristics of the door knockers. The door knocker is formed by 4 parts: the plate, the spike, the hammer, and the dust. The plate is a metal sheet of different forms, finish mounted on the door itself and that contains a drill hole. The spike is the piece that holds it all together. It is put on the outside, piercing the door with a stud and pressing the plate against this one. Its fixation is done by an eye bolt in the interior extreme, where it can contain or not an anti-theft fastener. The hammer is the piece that the people used to know. And the task is the part that receives the blow when calling, and it is transmitted by solid weight to the door. Depending on the shape that the door knocker has, diverse links have been found to determine its symbologies. The word door knocker has its etymological meaning in the Andalusian Arabian adaba, before, whose meaning is lizard female. By chance or not, there are doors that present this figure. If the shape is an iguana, it means that the person who lives there is someone influential political family or someone descending from royalty. If the figure is a lion, it means that a brave person, such as served in the military, lives there. The same as an owl, it seems that is a lawyer or doctor, and the Fatima hand. The Fatima hand is a special one. It comes from a legend. The legend said that Fatima, Muhammad Prophet's daughter, was preparing dinner for her husband Ali at their home, when suddenly he arrived with his second wife. Fatima was so surprised and felt so much jealous that introduced her hand in a container that had boiling oil. Although her husband retired her hand, she was disabled for life. For this reason, Fatima's father chose the symbol of his daughter's hand to immortalize the incident. From that moment, it started to be considered an amulet against all bad. Both emitter and receiver users knew a type of secret codification to know which apartment they were calling for. The code consists of a series of blows known as peaks irreplicons. A peak is a single sharp blow that sounds like this. And the repico is a series of 3 quick blows that sounds like this. The emitter produces as many peaks as numbers of floors where the apartment was found. No. No? If he wanted to go to the first door, but if he wanted to go to the second door, a repico was added. For this reason, if the user wanted to go to the third second, the code was 3 peaks and 1 repico. That is this. The sound that is produced on the main door goes to 2 different ways since the receptor hears it. The first is the interior. It goes through the hall, the stairway, and the interior window. And the second is the exterior that goes through the lobby, the street, and the exterior window. These 2 sounds are generated in the same place, but are very different because of the proportions and the materials of the different places it goes to. We have established a code to catalog the different documents we have been done. First of all, we put the street, the number, and the building name. And then following by a D if it is in a sketch, an F for a photograph, G for recordings, B videos, M sonar instruments, and E surveys and interviews. Followed by a second letter for more details. For example, if we have done a photo of the lateral of the door knocker, the code was the street, the number, then an F, an A, and an L. Also, we have created a file card model that contains all the information of the piece. For example, it contains the height where the door knocker was located. It is very common to see them in 1.5 meters from the floor. But also, for a curiosity, there are examples that are located in 2.5 meters or more that one person can catch it. The reason is that the person who used it were riding a horse in that moment. In addition, we note the quantity of door knockers, if it is only one or more. Depending on the culture, it is said that there were one door knocker for women, one door knocker for men, and one door knocker for children. Every single one have a different sound. Because of this, the people on the house knew the type of person before the opening. Finally, we have made a study about the density of the door knockers of the Barrio Gótico. In this map, you can see that even today there are streets with a high density. For example, the Passage del Credit, the one in the middle, has a 90% of density. It is very, very high. But also, there is an amount of doors that don't have door knockers now, but it have had not so long ago. So we can see the traces that these elements have made on the main door. Finally, I would like you to hear 4 examples of recordings of 2 different door knockers. I don't know if here works or if I have to go up. Okay. The first one, as you can see the code, Carrer d'Anna Margós, number 11, is a recording from the street. Okay. The same door knocker, but from the hall, sounds like this. And another example is from the street Monsieur, number 7. The recording from the street sounds like this. This one is more metallic sound. And the same from the hall. This one was like 20 centimeters and sounds higher than the other one that is a bit like this. Okay, so thank you for your attention. I hope that this topic has been interesting for you too.
Thank you. And we decided in this panel that we are going to take all your questions by the end of the session. That way we can read interactive or reflections. So this is great. Thank you so much. The next one is going to be Sound Environments in Urban Design Practice by BBC Tulu.
Yeah. It's me. Check.
Yeah.
So it's I changed a little bit the title from the proceedings that you can find it. I will explain why. So it's kind of part of my PhD project. This presentation. I'm coming from urban and regional planning background in Istanbul. Then I did a master program in urban design theory, and at the same time in critical thinking and Marxist and Deleuzian thinking. So it's kind of a like mix of this education background. And I am now a PhD candidate in HFBK, the Fine Arts Faculty in Hamburg. It's my 2nd year, and I'm holding since last year a fellowship from Heilig Bird Foundation. And this actually kind of changed my looking to the sustainable urban developments and so on. So this is the part of my PhD project, which is like a theoretical part. the day that I was writing this preceding article, I wasn't so right now I'm writing the PhD thesis, so it doesn't make really too much sense for me to present all things. So I came with something newer. You will see some of the kind of the results. Hopefully, I will finish in March. But let me talk a little bit about the urban design, and maybe you are not coming from the same background as me. In ancient times, planning was like a kind of a more like a pretty basic, and urban space was merely a morphological structure. It was planned orthogonal layout or unplanned organic settlements. And it was focused on mobility, daily needs, and mostly religious gatherings. You can see some of the examples here. And like ever since in the 60s, Kevin Lynch started to work with the cognition scientists and like at the analyzing the forms and the meanings of the urban space and the perception of the users, this area got much more interest, and that we can still see his heritage in the urban design world. And this all approaches, of course, meet right now with the technology and all of this artificial intelligence and so on, and they are most of the projects they are proposing, I guess, really good projects, and they use the ecological urbanism that focuses on the relation between human, non-human, nature, animals, species, and other things. And in the era of Anthropocene, those kind of encounters have an important impact of the design of urban space. And what I'm trying to say is that the urban designers are aware of how the other senses actually are important, and we should include that senses in the process of urban design. So this is, for example, one example. See, it's a planning office based in New York. They did this chatty maps that you can click on the areas, and then you can hear the sounds. And what they use in that I think it's 2014, and they use the free sound, the library for the Creative Commons license, or Flickr and social media, using the geo tagging and collecting the data. So, I mean, now, like I always like look at these things, and then I kind of question of, I mean, I support all of the post-human theory and all, but how reliable would it be that data collection without going to the streets and asking the users and adding their perception in the research, especially in this post-truth era with everything is based online, basically, especially in the online world. I mean, we can talk about it later about that.
And New York.
Sorry?
This is New York. You said New York, or
It's a planning office based in New York. I said it's one of them. It could be another city. I don't know, but they have different cities. I mean, it's not New York. No. It's, you can see. I put this like you can see the goodcitylife.org. They have all the things. So how I actually came across with the started interested with sound, while in the conventional education there's not so much going on, especially the countries that I studied at least. So I mean, I was always interested with music, but then I started to DJing, and when I got my turntables, and then I was like trying it out and selecting the vinyls, like trying to mix them. No, it doesn't match. Let's find another one. So, and I kind of realized that I actually do what I'm doing in my urban design practice, that I'm collecting the data, I'm trying to mix them, and trying to kind of create a rhythm in the urban space that as much as like as the DJ does. And so it was kind of the beginning of, oh, okay, maybe I can do sound and urban design something. And then my other critique was like all the urban design projects, like focusing on visual aspects, trying to like make green most comfortable, sustainable spaces, but just like in the visual aspects, but like not really adding sound, light, smell, sort of things. So this is how I started to my research, and then as all of the good regional planners does, I went to the regulations and the law, especially in Germany. So I tried to find what is actually about sound in urban space. So, but as much as like that boring slide, it is kind of boring because it always deals with sound as a negative thing. It's a noise. There's nothing else that we can hear. And most of the things I wouldn't understand because I'm not coming from a technical background, so I wouldn't understand all the symbols and so on. I mean, last 4 or 5 years, I guess the Umweltbundesamt, they started to do the Nachbarlärm, which is like the neighborhood noise, which could like they started to add that in the research like what they do or the regulations. And then of course, like everybody else, I came across with Scheffer and I like and then soundscape terminology, acoustic ecology. As words, they catch me because I am coming from like urban planning, landscape. So soundscape must be my thing. I'm also really interested with urban ecology. Wow, acoustic ecology, that must be also my thing. But unfortunately, more I read, more I looked at the results, I was kind of skeptical about his research, and because what he was like kind of describing, again, it was totally negative in the city, and this was the thing that I wanted to live. I never saw myself living in a countryside, for example, or like other experiences, kind of like in the city life that I had. For example, let's just listen to this. One moment, if we can. It's really not so high, but it just I'm just walking in a small one of the small streets in Venice, and it's really quiet. And I am coming from Southeast Turkey, lived in Istanbul. It's not a really easy city to live for a woman, and I still have this, like I don't feel comfortable when I'm alone in the night. So in that moment, I really wanted a noise that acoustic ecologists or like the shepherd, that they really hate that noise. So this was kind of my critic, and then as you see, like, I mean, I guess it's woman perspective is totally missing in that project. But let's live with like gender and everything. But as an urban practitioner, that I see like it's like skips kind of the importance of the dynamics of the urban space for me, like and the soundscape just like, or sound appears just a listening at, and there is no interaction between the listener and the environment. So this was kind of my critique, and then I decided to use sound environment instead of soundscape in my PhD. While I found that actually it's much more multiple, inclusive, relational, and so on. And as a listening act, I'm proposing more of a collective listening than individual listening in the research that I am doing. And I came across with Alex Arteaga. Now we are working together in UDK Berlin, that we have a unit, auditor architecture unit, and we work in phenomenology-based cognitive science, and we use this act of listening as an enactive or an embodied act, and what we are working on sound, but our main object is not sound. We are using sound as a medium, or like aurality as a medium. For us, is like for the research, and also for my PhD project, is the experience is much more important than the act. And then the other, I have to pass out a little bit, I guess, some slides. So the other things or other theories that I'm using, the rhythm analysis, but taking again the rhythm analysis as that not like just the elements that affects people, but that elements actually in the moment of the experience they are changing, and we are enacting each other. So this is like a continuous process that I am referring. And then the biggest impact is Deleuze and Guattari, and the theoretical part that the refrain shortly, it's a ritual. They are taking as a repetition of the everyday situations. So what is actually like it's like in our everyday life, a bird song or traffic. It becomes it's an expressional value. I mean, it's getting out from being a noise, but it's kind of a rhythm of it that moves with us, and that. So we can, in that sense, we can like look at the urban space as not a noisy place, but that we are living with that actually. So the other theory is like smooth and straightened spaces, which is also a kind of a freedom for me to use. There is no hierarchy between the things, especially with the sound, that they can change into each other. These are kind of main elements, and what I am doing is trying to do is like a booklet or handbook for the urban designers, that how they can add sound actually into their design processes. And I'm not creating a new method or something. I'm using the old existing methods, but using that theories that we can go a little bit about like this soundscape ideology. So, and I'm proposing the sound as a participatory tool, sound as a construction element, and sound as a technological solution in urban development. And one of the as you're gonna see, it's like a sound walk that I'm proposing, but as an embodied action. It's as a not just walking for listening, but understanding what is happening in that moment with me, my body, and also with my culture. And sonic mind maps, the other tool that we can use. I'm just passing, and sound art installations. These are like kind of already done parts in the thesis, and now it's what I'm working in progress, which is like really using objects, different material in order to change the perception, not cutting out the traffic. Okay, let's do a pedestrian, and we have a quiet place, but using, for example, masking. It's the pebble stones that you can add in the floor, and they can cut the noise, or vegetation depending on the volume and the density. And the other is like I'm again looking for the artificial intelligence and the psychoacoustic projects in order to give them some insights. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. You want to quickly, or yeah, you have to connect. Okay, since he has to connect and we have to run through this technical,
Yeah.
I'm going to make an exception right now,
Yeah.
and maybe we can start with the Q&A for
Yeah.
the two presentations, and that way we can give time, right? So we have 10 minutes right now for the Q&A, and feel free to open this question.
I have a question for the door knockers. Thank you very much. Very interesting. But I didn't got really the time frame. you said they're still existing, but when do they first came up, or is they seem to be quite ancient, or not?
The ancient objects that we have found, it's from the medieval period.
Wow.
Okay.
Yes.
So 1300, 1400, or
Yes, it started
okay.
Yeah.
many years ago.
Yeah.
Now with the technology have changed a lot of things. Also the door knockers are going to disappear. But we defend that this soundscape is very important in the area.
Yeah.
So we should preserve it and take it on account.
It's really visible. You see them, and it's not like a small object. It's you really see, and you really like, wow.
You understand, but I just wanted to know when they pop up, when they came, really where did they arrive, because I mean, even if it's 1400 something, it's a year, it could have been bells. So it's very interesting that they choose this way to announce themselves.
Yes. The ones that is the oldest one is not in the Barrio Gótico, but it is in Barcelona. There is a documental of this, and it is from 4009, if I remember. Yes. This one is very big, it's like this. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And how many collected?
The photographs from the one that is existing and the traces, I have from 200 different elements.
And the sounds recording?
The sounds, I think that it was 100 and a half,
Well,
because for 15 were only traces, so we cannot.
yeah. You cannot knock.
Yes. I would like, but I don't.
And in this case, the picaporte is a direct, it has a direct relationship with the architecture, because it's also about the resonance of the building,
Yes.
right?
Yes, the style is the same as the building, but in some cases the building has been reformed,
Mm-hmm.
and the picaporte is the same that was before.
Mm-hmm.
So it is two different realities,
Yeah,
but yes, I think it is very interesting.
it doesn't have the same resonance if the architecture changes.
No,
Wow,
of course.
interesting.
It's the same element, but the one that is before the Reformation was nothing compared that the materials, the proportions,
Mm-hmm.
all influences.
Very interesting.
But I also can imagine that the sound is not only traveling through the corridor, not only to the outside, I think it can be traveled through the walls,
Exactly.
Yeah.
because the vibration seems to be quite strong.
Yes, the
Probably-
solid way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you change the street, it influences too. If you put a vegetation in that street, the sound will be different too.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone has other question? I actually have a question. It's been really interesting, your research is very similar to mine.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much you have your research in relationship of urban planning, and also how urban planning is shaping or is the segregation of the city, right? So what I've been analyzing is that the most working class neighborhoods that are not really taken in consideration in urban planning, they have the most noise pollution places. But then I have the same question: what is noise? What is pollution? But in this case, it's really sound volumes that are affecting the health and also emotionally speaking the people who live in the neighborhood. So I wonder how much this urban planning and noise, or urban planning and the noise itself as a matter of fact, is creating, or is not that it's creating, but is being analyzed as a tool, right? It's a tool that silence right now, for example, in New York City, is a commodity. Silence is now only a gap or like a pocket that you can buy in certain places in the most isolated, such as the suburb. And the noisiest ones that are affecting your health are mostly for working class families that are nearby an airport or the train.
I mean, I guess if, for me, I think there's no silence. I don't believe in silence. There's no, I mean, if you think about the consciousness, there is no silence in one body. And I'm sure, I mean, there's a lot of research on about like how urban development not supported in the socially oppressed or segregated areas. Of course, there are researches going on or projects. What would be interesting to add, I guess, this cultural analysis, not just a measurement, what is actually the sound of a neighborhood for a I don't know, Latin American community in New York City, and then make the, if we really want to make a calculation, so like kind of comparing and like accepting the perception of these people, maybe listening to that music, for them is for much more liable or much more interesting than being in a nature sound. So this is what I'm kind of like proposing, like really mixing this cultural analysis with the technical details. Of course, I'm not really, I appreciate the works, everybody's work. It's not just this is something new, but I really bring this backgrounds, like different backgrounds in the urban research, like woman or any other gender, like non-binary, and also the background with immigrants and so on. But of course, how it started when I started to be immigrant in another country, because then you see kind of what's going on in that area.
Yeah, very interesting. It's like a different axis, like it's very interesting. And is anyone want to add into that?
The team ends at least.
Okay, so we still have like 2 minutes more of this conversation with you guys.
Yeah, I'm
but
very old, so
yeah,
the
so you
seminars.
want to talk, but this is I think is very extremely important, because in most acoustic ecology, this is the lack that I've been like finding.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
I have a big
for being
critic.
here.
It's a white man presenting something. Sorry, I can't accept that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And now we are going to go to our third presenter, and again is Aterro Mande of Rio de Janeiro, that is Finnish.
Sorry again about this trickle here. Oh. So, as you can perceive, I am a white man writing about an experience, a soundwalk experience, and it's on the text. This perception is on. I'm going to read for you. Shortly, it's a wandering instead of a sound walk through this area from the city of Rio de Janeiro, Aterro do Mano. I'm going to run a bit because it's a long text, but so I'm going to read. As recently settled inhabitant of Praça da Bandeira, Rio de Janeiro, the region that permeates Aterro do Mangue, an old mangrove embankment between the city's downtown region and the North Zone, I decided on 27th of April to walk through the neighborhood while equipped with a binaural microphone and a photographic camera. Intent of completing a suitable itinerary, I sought to collect visual and audio elements that could guide my memory and fill my imagination with characters and trajectories. In this anti-touristic exercise, I, was not born in Rio de Janeiro, we should together experience that did not stem from the exotic, but rather from the place where I live, to which I not yet belong, and which still doesn't belong to me, but that nevertheless is my neighborhood. This talk describes that itinerary. It attempts to rescue, with audio and visual cues generated by landscape and bystanders, the continuity of neighboring characters and elements, despite of ruthless silence and cleansing that the city underwent during the 20th century. So I departed from Praça da Bandeira. Pictures are. It's an ancient square between Tijuca. Sorry about the maps. I'm not from the architecture background. I'm a musician. Between the Tijuca, which is a noble area here, and more archaic regions of the city, like the Imperial District, São Cristóvão, and the Mangueira Favela, which is here. Then I crossed a walking ramp over Radial Oeste, a contemporary avenue almost entirely devoted to buses and cars, and I entered into the Ceará Street. This is, sorry, my map. I entered the street Ceará, and then I walked through unto Pedro II Avenue, and turned to the left, leading down to the surroundings of Quinta da Boa Vista, which is a park that comprises a zoo, the old Imperial Palace, now turned into a museum, Museu Nacional, and in some departments of the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. Recently, on 2nd December, both the museum and the university's venues was destroyed by a huge, inexplicable fire. Because of that unfortunate event, I came back to the park 4 days after in order to understand the feeling of melancholy that took me after the burning and take over me when I passed through the road region. I would like to express that feeling and to represent this mood by this text. So coming back, this is the center of the downtown of Rio de Janeiro. Here is the south zone, which is the richest area, and here is the noble area. So that's in between, that region is in between the city, the plan of city. The center, that's the rich zone, and the north zone. Okay. So, back to Ceará Street, that was my main stopping ground. It is perhaps the bleakest stretch in that region, a former red light district now in decay. I found in this area huge packs of urban voids lacking construction, brought on by a deactivated rail system, avenues that have been forsaken by walkers, overpasses that loom over whole neighborhoods, and concrete canals that hold full waters that were once rivers, some that played a key role in cities' development, such as Maracanã, which is this one, and are now open sewers that feed into the Guanabara Bay. I also came across with precarious and unofficial stores and improvised residences, as you can see here, along the steel rail bridges in use. The first numbers of Ceará Street are a forgotten area by the sea. Also was wondering, however, new sounds and characters appeared. As soon as I started to forget the automobiles from their Radial Oasis traffic, I heard the persistent recording of the egg vendor strike, announced by a megaphone on a combi. 40 eggs, 10 reais. The boss is crazy, said the recorder. Later, a loud motorcycle engine can be heard. The area is populated by motorcycle workshops among very poor houses. I remember the old lady with her grandson passing by me. She was silently conducting the boy to the school. His face was completely expressionless, automaton. As I got close to the car of the red light district, an old Mr. Black and Elegant called me. Hey, photographer! He attracted out my attention from the red street and a struggle between two homeless men. All the fight can be listened, however, on the recording I put on the SoundCloud. That recording is an hour and a half recording for the binaural microphone recording, which is a secret way to record among these errors. I would say. It's like to have a headphone. Yeah. A very high and insistent bark with the fight and the speech, I will kill him, vou matar ele, gives to the sound layer a tone of extreme abandon or exquisite feelings. Well, I couldn't find the red light street at the Rua Ceará, as I heard it would be there. But maybe because the man who called me. But as soon as I leave the street, I found the madams, now in an avenue with traffic, Pedro II. He was working, and my presence was noted. Silently, I was intimidated by their gaze. I stood by distance, fearing any animosity. The hostility was maybe aggressive to an unexpected walker. I, a potential client, should be by car. So, coming back to the mangrove region. On the first 3 decades of the last century, that region was a famous area of prostitution, but also of cosmopolitan living together. Former slaves, Polish and Italian immigrants, all who chose to live in the area which was close to the harbor, finding work and cheap houses. The region was famous to shelter the birth of samba among the home of black people from Bahia, particularly in Tiaciatas, Hilária Batista de Almeida, a cook, street food vendor, seamstress, and highly initiated on candomblé. She was the initiated. Her house was a place for meeting point where samba was created. It's an urban legend that current on that region. Well, part of the mangrove area was known as Pequena África, Little Africa. On the beginning of the 20th century, Praça 11, the 11th square, close to Praça da Bandeira, was a starting point from the parade of the recently invented school of samba during the carnival. On the next picture, a number of diverse characters in their costumes on Praça 11's carnival can be noted. Drag queens, a musketeer, a young girl leading the symbol of the republic, another girl with the striped carnival from Brazil, 2 officials, a gallant man. For me, they look rich or fancy, and perhaps with the exception of the queen in the middle, they are too circumspect for a carnival party. In spite of the exuberance, poverty dominates people from the mangrove area. Writing about the engraved book of the modernist artist Lazar Segal, Mangue, which means mangrove, for 1947, a sequence of images produces from the prostitution area. The last decade of an already decadent region was described by the poet Manuel Bandeira as a sad moment. I quote, "They came the police restrictions, the shadows vanished, the sadness was infiltrated by the mandolin of the blind, and finally the stroke of mercy, the closure of the brothels, the woman's dispersion in some pathetic suicides by poison or by fire." Praça 11, along with 525 buildings, was destroyed for the erection of Presidente Vargas Avenue, which was a dictator, a typical modern route for automobiles, whose construction started on the early 30s. But persisting or surviving, the fragile population from that area still moves around the region, escaping of being decimated or departed. Back to the memory in my walks, I realized, however, that much of the old vivid times related with the birth of samba and meeting place of modernist artists are over. But what had survived? I have vague memory that, in a strange way, it belongs to me and arises from the deep past, although we still can name it. The tedious face of the lady who leaves her grandson, described above, is similar to those we can observe or on the drawings of Segal for 90 years ago, as well as the faces on the carnival for 1937, and the ladies on the Pedro II Avenue. But maybe the listen will shine the positive aspect I would like to catch, the vague memory, the missing words. I'm going to cut a little bit, I'm going to direct to the point. We can find on the region many dwellers and wanderers who works on the Ceará street, and in Rio de Janeiro in general. Street vendors, books, street cleaners, hookers, people selling bread, coconuts. As in older times, all sorts of street workers, slow men, as geographer Milton Santos refers to them, men and women who, in contemporary capitalism, do not run through town at the speed with which money is exchanged, but whose footsteps are part of a continuous living experience. As listening to the sound file, one can hear the vendors' jargons, or the steps, strokes, and other sounds generated by the street workers' tools. As a place forsaken by successive layers of urbanization, will those voices and sounds be the echo from the past? Are the cries of the street vendors the same we imagine on the braids engravings representing the 19th century slavery society of Rio de Janeiro? Those are my pictures from today. Nevertheless, among the flow of sounds, one took my attention, a nose addressed to my desire for a more affable reality. It's a very short one. After a long song, as he stopped cutting, the worker whistled a single, very elegant melody of 15 seconds. I don't remember his face, but even it is from my listening a long grip. I'm going to conclude, and I'm not going to play the song because we're short of time, just go straight to the conclusion. So the sound walk, realizing, or the wanderings I realized on 27 April, revealed for me opposite feelings concerning the region I am now living. Melancholy is spread over contemporary people and from other times. Its source is related with Rio de Janeiro's past, perhaps, the slavery system and brutal periodic process of modernization that surpasses cultures, natures, old architectures, ways of living. The nowadays landscape is an abandoned area from city, a forgotten region that carries strong symbols for the city's own identity. On the other hand, the presence of people on the streets carry on their voices and sounds for their work. From time to time, a careful listen can catch briefing effluvia, resting space, and segments of sounds from another epoch. The old train system sound, the cry from cellars, the animals on the streets, even the voice tone are those silence related to a persistent past. On their existence, they are testimony of a victory, a mock against modernity. Thank you.
We have 1 minute. Do you want to play one?
Okay.
Yes.
You have 1 minute.
2 minutes.
Play the minutes.
Yeah, because
I can
it's
give
very
mine to you.
important.
You can take mine.
Play the best minute, please.
2 minutes, really fine.
This is the end of the Ceará Street. And then you could take it.
Yeah. So we have 5 minutes for Q&A for your session, and so we can open that now. If anyone has a question that you want to bring or reflection upon this presentation?
I guess it's not. It's like an inner question.
Yeah.
Not just for you. Like I was also thinking when I do my research how actually hard to work on sound. First of all, writing about sound is so important because you don't give the same feeling when you were actually listening, no? This is the thing. And when I go like the field recording, you know, like it's how actually difficult again, because while you were reading, I mean, I can understand, but when you mix with that, then it makes much more sense for me to not just listening. So I was, this is what like I'm kind of also working like what kind of things we can use, what kind of tools we can use to express that moment, like diagramming, finding a graphical explanation more than notation. So I felt, I mean, you know, like with your presentation, I felt the same thing. So I just wanted to like say loudly, but I don't know what was your, for example,
Well,
experience.
background as a composer, so I always worked with only sounds, maybe with another interaction, dance, I don't know. But it's the same problem for me to create this context now. It's the first experience I get into the text and bring some image as well. So I'd like to hear from you that's the same impression I have. It's hard to describe from entering into it. And don't have this context. It's also something you have only with file recording.
Yeah, because also the recordings that we do, in some extent, if it's part of our culture or country or culture of like a linguistic code, we can understand certain codes, like some codes, right? Whether if we are in another place, the context of the experience of listening to sound, it will be very different. So, it's, yeah.
But even that, the faces I found.
The faces, yeah.
You're silent. The hostility of the ladies on the street, they didn't say nothing. Just look, what are you doing here? Look that.
Do you think you felt like a foreigner in that space, in that moment, even though you're from Brazil, right?
Completely.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same feeling of a foreign. I was completely German in that space.
I think if you described it as a melancholy or full of melancholy, I'm not sure it's the sound itself transporting this or just your situation in this moment. I think the seller probably with this 40 eggs for 10 reals, he would probably describe a sound that's very powerful and good. And I probably, your personal situation is reflecting this melancholy, I don't know. I mean,
maybe. But the sound of the 40x 10 reais was a loop, very loud loop.
yeah.
So it's not alive at all. It's like pa 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 pa.
I understand, but I just wanted to say if your feeling were probably melancholic feeling, so you felt the soundscape is melancholic.
Yeah.
Probably some people which are living there have a completely different feeling. Probably it's home for them, or there's an agitated life, or whatever.
Maybe.
Yeah, and also it's very interesting because it's also the connotation of decibels. For example, you're totally right. When I go in Mexican or like Latino neighborhoods, the volume is important. High volume is that we're here. We're owning this public space. So public space and sound is extremely important. It's like we are here, it's placemaking. Whether for someone who is from another culture might be invasive, right? Might be, oh, this is so much. But then we have the other category of noise, which is actually the factual noise that, for example, living nearby an airport costs you, which is not linguistic per se, it's just like a blast of decibels without, you know, any message to it. And that's super interesting because it's like creating like a new categories of what noise is, right?
Also, but also the like the urban environment, on which area you are working, like near, or what you are trying to solve or try to help.
Yeah.
Like this is like, and then this is also brings the user's perception. Like you, Frankfurt am Main, like how Natasha expressed her feeling about it. I mean, it was so interesting. It's exactly what I am talking about. Like regulations and so on, maybe they good, yeah, cool, but then in the real life it's not really working. Yeah, it's really much more complex, and I guess this is the thing that we going into this complexity and trying to understand. This is a big work instead of just recording the sounds that we are hearing and presenting. Oh, this is. I'm so sorry, but this is the sound of winter. You know.
I have a question according to your presentation. You said that sound is part of urban planning now, and I'm questioning this. I have no experience about this because probably one of the biggest building sites was the Potsdamer Platz, and now in New York is the biggest building site or construction site of entire America, the new on the coast to New Jersey. I don't have absolute no clue about sound. I think this is just they don't watch it, look at it.
Like about sound, like I said, like urban design projects are more interested with the other elements of the, not just the visual aspects, but they are taking care of like adding sound, smell, light. No, there are a lot of examples. It's not like research area. Like there are projects that they are taking.
Will they change the building? How the buildings are?
What do you mean? Changing the building?
So I live in a town which is built from the 1880. One street, and this is of course without any reflection about sound. There are a lot of balconies, decoration. Now there's a lot of traffic, and it's quite silent because the architecture of the building itself is not reflecting. And then coming back to what you said 25 years ago in Banff, the founding of AFR, this was near Calgary. I don't know, Calgary. And this Calgary is like one glass wall facade after the other. And it's incredibly noisy. And it has nothing to do with urban planning, it's just with the facades.
Yeah, it has to do with the material. So
yes.
if an architect thinks about that material, what material I can use to observe that echo or the feedback, then it can.
Of course. But do you have as an urban planner?
As an urban planner, I can just I'm not planning the building. I am planning the urban space.
But you can plan only the urban space if you plan the buildings.
Yeah, but then I can work with the architect that I can understand. We can understand each other.
Yeah.
You know, this is the thing. I mean, we are doing something totally different than architecture. I don't have any clue about the acoustics of a building. I mean, of course, I'm interested, but I didn't get an education of that. It's not our thing to do it. We are like more. If there's a glass, what I could do if there's a glass building that like reflecting this sound and creates a noise, then I would look for a material that doesn't really touch the art of the architecture, because I don't want to manipulate someone's work, but something like an installation or like kind of using a vegetation or something that I'm sure you can find a solution in that sense. But I can't really, I mean, you know, like it's not the buildings, but like the existing buildings, then like modifying them, trying to modify them with some examples or some installations, I would say. I mean, sound installations would be really working. For example, I would work with an artist that knows the material, how we can manipulate that echo, not just
you can't do this. Sorry, it's just impossible. You can't do sound installation from entire string bridges.
It doesn't have to be a big thing. I mean, there are a lot of technological stuff, you know, like you can Arduino and so on. I mean, you can use a lot of stuff. I don't know what you are talking about. I'm just like,
I think it's just loud if you have a facade which is super reflecting.
Yeah, but then you can.
How you can do a urban planning in sound if you don't care about the buildings? I don't understand this.
But it's not about we are not taking care of buildings, but we are saying that I'm saying that it's not tear down that building, but find another material that cuts that sound or that observes that sound. I mean, this is what should be, not like cleaning everything and making the most quiet places, but using this existing sound and manipulating them, and also like teaching the users what is actually about bothering you, and you can learn about the noise, no? Like you can learn living with the noise,
Yeah.
in a different way. It's possible. It's just the education.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I really want to agree
Yeah.
with this. I think it's really dangerous to say this, to say you can live with the noise. I mean,
You
I'm
can
not.
live with the noise.
I don't believe it. No, I
Sure.
really have to
Okay.
disagree completely.
Okay, we can make a follow-up conversation later. Maybe we just, because we start late, we take the last comment question and then we close the session.
I want to continue from
Yes.
Peter's thought. Perhaps there is not, I see, communication between the planners and the architects enough to make at least the new buildings to have some, because it is the city that we're caring. And I do also believe that this, because by raising the dBs by the years, our sensitivity might diminish some of us, but it's an energy. It is energy that we